You touch on a sensitive issue, it's a real one. It's a challenge which every big country faces. Because you are big, because you're powerful, what you do has very big consequences on others. How you act is interpreted by others very differently than if you were a small country. As the old Mr. Lee Hsien Loong used to say, when elephants fight, the grass is trampled. When elephants make love, the grass also suffers. And so it's very difficult to be an elephant. And yet the elephant has to get on with smaller countries, because if all the smaller countries decide that this is not in its interest, then you can't do anything about it. But the lack of goodwill, I do not think, is conducive towards the long-term sustainability of the power and influence of the great power. I think in an intellectual sense, the Chinese understand this. About 10 years ago, maybe a bit longer, there was a series which was shown in China on television called The Rise of Great Powers, 大国崛起. And it explained, took one by one, very objectively, the great powers in the world, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, the British, the Soviets, the Americans, how they rose, how it was through force in many cases, how there was a pushback, and how eventually things went wrong and the power failed. And the clear conclusion from that is you must emerge peacefully, and you must be able to do so in a way which wins acceptance from the global community. So you may be the superpower, but you have to have legitimacy, you have to have soft power. It's not just force. And so I think in an intellectual sense, China understands that. In a practical sense, it's very difficult to implement, because each one of us, we find it very difficult to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, looking at our own conduct and our own norms and our own expectations, and concluding that we don't look the way we look to ourselves. It's very, very hard. For a big country, it's even harder. So, therefore, I would say if you look at the other countries which have been dominant in Southeast Asia or in Asia, since the war, the US have had a presence in Asia. They are powerful. They have the Seventh Fleet. Nobody doubts that they can outdo any other of the countries in the region by spades. But they have been welcomed, and there are many friends which the US has in Asia. It's not that they buy them, but there is a certain breadth of spirit, of generosity, of policy. It is possible in that environment, has been possible for the United States friends, and for those who are not quite so close to the US but live in the region, to grow, prosper, and compete in peace. And I think to be able to do that for 60, 70 years, I mean, from time to time people will put up a sign to say, Yankee, go home. But they don't seriously mean that. If Yankee went home, they'd be very sorry. So it's quite hard to ask one big country to choose another big country as a role model. But I think there's something to be learned from the US experience in Asia since the war.